Yeah, it's about the bag with the triple single crew. We got Ronnie, Doc, Antonio, the real deal too. They coming and dropping knowledge, you know that they get to work. You know that triple single cover Bay Area sports. You know I'm coming hard, I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. Like number 30, I really got the range like Stephen Curry. Get a couple rings and
One.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the triple single crew. Thanks so much again for joining us. As always, we got a great one for you. Today is going to be a lot of fun. I'm with my guy, Doc Martinez. You can see right there. And Ronnie, as usual, bringing that East Bay Raider flavor. Fellas, it's going to be a fun episode. I look forward to mock drafts and scouting. You guys know I'm kind of a big time geek when it comes to that stuff. So I've been doing my homework. I've been looking up what the needs are that we have. So today I just want to get into obviously the 49ers. We're not going to do a full 7-round mock, so don't worry. All right. We're going to go about 4 rounds or 4 players that you'd like to see picked to start out the draft. And then, maybe we can get a couple of those sleeper picks and what you think the Raiders might be doing too, Ronnie. So I'm interested to hear that. And as always, guys, remember to like, subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much again for supporting us. Remember, it's at TSC Bay Area on Twitter and Instagram. And again, as always, like that channel. So keep hitting that like. So fellas, let's get it going. I really kind of want to hear what you think, Doc. Like who is that first pick? Who is your no matter what pick, basically, at number 3?
Yeah, so if the decision is completely in my hands and we have the options that we believe to be available, which will most likely include a Mac Jones, a Justin Fields, a Trey Lance, I am completely sold and bought into Justin Fields. I think there's just so much history there of him being successful at every single level that he has competed in. I think there's no question regarding his potential as it pertains to his physical talent. His production level has always been high, and he's played against the best of the best, right? And he has beat the best of the best. I remember tagging you on a Facebook post, shout out Facebook for those of you that still have it, where he went head to head with Lawrence in the 7-on-7 drills back when they were in high school, I believe. And he balled out, right? He beat Lawrence twice, it sounds like. One time they shut out Lawrence, and the second one it was a little bit closer, but Justin Fields came out on top. And right, I know he signed his intent to be a part of the Georgia Bulldogs, and he was there for a year and then decided to transfer, which we know is something other quarterbacks have done in the past. I mean, even a Joe Burrow, is a prime example of somebody who went number 1 overall, who had to transfer from Ohio State to actually get some playing time at LSU. And so
Baker Mayfield,
right, is another one. And so there's prime examples of that being okay. Even Cam Newton was a transfer from, I think, community colleges before he ended up at Ole Miss.
Wasn't Mahomes a transfer too?
I don't know. I was gonna say Mahomes, but I don't know 100%, so I didn't want to throw that out there without having done that research first. But I think there's a possibility Mahomes could have also been a part of that list. But all of that to say is that I'm completely bought into Justin Fields. I don't know if y'all have seen Richard Sherman speak on a few different podcasts, but he, of all people, probably best understands Kyle Shanahan's offense and just the evolution of Kyle Shanahan's offense over time. And not only the evolution over time, but the evolution it still has in its growth, right? Like how much more evolution can still happen if the right quarterback is back there. And I think Justin Fields, as he said, is the guy that he believes can take Kyle Shanahan's offense to the next level. And the last thing I'll say is in a few of his pro days, Justin Field is displaying the arm strength and throwing deep downfield. And some people may say, well, Kyle doesn't really do that. Well, maybe it's because Kyle hasn't had somebody to do that with. And so we know about his legs. And I think right now the only questions, and I don't think it's fully fair, but it's like, is it his ability to read progressions and see the whole field? I think the guy has it all, and I think he can do it all. And so that's what I would take with the number 3 overall pick.
All right. So I guess since we're still on the Niners, I guess I better do mine right now. So we're really splitting hairs here because I think Fields is incredibly talented. I think he could be the next Josh Allen type talent, even more dynamic, obviously, especially on the move. But the arm talent is just so elite. So I definitely think there's a possibility there, but I really like Trey Lance. I know it's a project to some people, but the more tape I watch on this guy, the more, to me, if we don't have Zach Wilson as that top passing option available, which I don't think he'll be there. I think the Jets now, I think it's like 99% at this point, right? I mean, there's a 1% chance probably that they won't pick Wilson, but I think they're going to take him. Everything points to that. And so it's going to be between Lance and Fields. The rest don't even matter to me. It's between Lance and Fields. They're the two most talented throwers, both in the pocket, on the move. I don't want to hear anything about progressions. I've watched plenty of tape on both of them. I think they both can make similarly difficult throws to tight windows. And so for me at number 3, I even wrote it down right here. It's no matter what. Trey Lance for me. So that's who I think the guy is. For me, the play action game. I just think he's such a smooth player. I think he is going to surprise a lot of people. And I believe in the way that they also develop quarterbacks down at NDSU. And I think people need to keep taking notice of that. So the next few quarterbacks coming out of that program are also going to be NFL ready. I think those guys they're just done a magnificent job at developing quarterbacks. With that, Ronnie, what the heck are the Raiders going to do at 17? Do you think they're going to trade up? They're going to trade down? They're going to trade out of the first round completely? What the heck they're doing? What are they doing?
Man, if I was, able to make that pick, I'm strictly locked in on defense. Like, yeah, 17, you could pick up an offensive lineman, but, you can pick those guys up in like the later rounds, like the 5th, 6th, or even 7th round.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm locked in on defense, like a Micah Parsons, which I'm pretty sure he probably won't be there 17, or like a Caleb Farley, cornerback, Patrick Surtain, guys like those, because that defense needs some serious help, man. And, trading away those offensive linemen like Trent Brown and Rodney Hudson, I feel like at 17, that's kind of like too early to pick up like a solid offensive lineman. Like,
yeah,
the one that can come off the top of my head that's like probably going like top 5 is Penny Sewell, I believe is how you say his name, from Oregon.
Penei Sewell.
Yeah, him. He's not going to be there 17.
Yeah, he probably won't, man. I think the Bengals are going to take him. Like, what is that, number 4 or 5? I forget. 5, I think.
Yeah. So, at 17, just, if there's a solid defensive player out there, try and get him. I know there's a guy from Notre Dame, as a linebacker. I know his first name is Jeremiah. I just don't know how to say his last name, but I think Doc knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, guys that are right there, take them, because that's definitely going to help out the defense. So, because you could pick up offensive linemen later in the drafts, whereas, at 17, you could possibly get a steal with like a Micah Parsons or Caleb Farley. So that's what I believe the Raiders are going to do. They're not going to trade up, probably just going down there. So based on what I've read, all Kuipers, so, anything can happen.
You don't think, just real quick, and I know I just want to let Doc get back into it, but so you don't think that they may trade down, get more picks, knowing that it is a deep draft in terms of O-line, and they, like you said, they can get an O-lineman or 2 in the 2nd or 3rd round? Because, and then the second part to that is because they did sign some defensive players, right? Like they did sign Ngakoue. Like they are trying to kind of put it together that way. So you don't see that at all.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the offensive side, they signed a couple guys too. Kenyon Drake, running back from Arizona,
right,
and Willie Snead IV from also the Ravens. So it's not like they only picked up defensive guys; they've also signed a few receivers and running backs. So it's looking good. I'm excited for this draft, man. Just in 15 days, so we'll see what happens. But I can't wait for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the guy that you mentioned, Ronnie, I'm not even going to pretend to know how to pronounce his name, but he was a senior linebacker. Jeremiah, I do believe that's how you at least pronounce his first name. He was a baller there at Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken. He was probably the defensive captain, and he played really well. And so I think a top-notch linebacker could be really good for the Raiders in the mode of hopefully a Fred Warner, right? We've come to see just how impactful Fred Warner and even Dre Greenlaw have been on San Francisco. And so if the Raiders can find a young guy that can become the head of that that linebacker core for the Raiders. I think that would be a really big step for them defensively. Some of the other guys that you mentioned, Caleb Farley, I've been just hearing just rumors about maybe his health. I guess his health has kind of come into question just because he's dealt with some injuries, and some of the injuries that he specifically has dealt with have been a cause of concern for some teams. But who knows? At this point in time, a lot of people are just throwing stuff out there, hoping that it catches fire. Some of it is just, to maybe have their name attached to that rumor. If and when Caleb Farley does drop down further than expected, they can say, see, I knew, I called it. But I think right now with this draft, it's actually really interesting because there's so many toss-ups. I think that happens in most drafts, but I think more often than not, you kind of have a clue of what each team is looking for. I think in this draft is so open, and that could bode really well for the Raiders. There might be a team that takes a player that's not even on most people's top 20 board, right? We see that from year to year. Some sleeper get picked really high, and it allows for some really impact players to be had past the 15th overall pick, right? So I think the Raiders could be in a good place. They just got to make sure that they've lined up all their ducks in a row, that if X, Y, and Z is available, that they're ready to take that player. As for what you said, Real Deal, I think Trey Lance would also be a great fit. That's my second option if Zach Wilson is not available. And I was listening to the game today, and they made a really great point that Trey Lance might be the best guy, considering that San Francisco is most likely going to start Jimmy G next year. And if there's any guy that would probably best benefit from sitting a year and really learning the offense and just refining his skills, it probably would be Trey Lance, which then hopefully by year 2, you unleash him similarly to Cap, right? Hopefully better though, because of the offensive mind that he would have behind the play calling, and he'll just take the league by storm, a la Josh Allen, a la Pat Mahomes. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Trey Lance whatsoever.
Yeah. And just real quick, I was looking it up while you guys were, it's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I'm going to go with that. Owusu-Koramoah. Yeah. I've seen him at like middle to late of the first round. I think that's he's been rising though. I think I've been seeing him more in the middle of that mid-teens, late teens. So that's where you guys are. So I think he's a good pick. He's athletic. I haven't scouted him too much. But yeah, I mean, my guy, if Caleb Farley falls to you guy, that's kind of my guy. Surtain was getting burned in some of the bowl games there in the playoff games. And he's good, but I think Farley's better. And I think the health stuff is, it's not as big as they're trying to make it out to be. But yeah, real quick on Lance, I'm glad you brought that up, Doc. I want everybody to know out there, I've watched the film and I've watched people talk back and forth about, Cap and start making these comparisons the last few weeks. And he's a much, much more advanced passer than Cap. And I even went back and watched a little bit of Cap in Nevada. And we're talking about Nevada ran that wide open pistol system, similar to what Alex Smith had at Utah under Urban Meyer. So you're talking about, they literally set that up to just run, or just give it to the running back and then have one read to go to, and he could just use that arm. But that's not what Lance is doing at all, including Fields, by the way, which is another, again, it's a stupid argument that he hasn't had to read through progressions. He has multiple receivers he needs to look at. So I just wanted to say that much more advanced passer. So for those, yes, the body type, the running ability a little bit. Cap may be a little faster, the top end speed, but I think in short area quickness, I mean, Lance is right there. He's really smooth and quick when he kind of busts through the offensive line. So I just want to say that. And then just to kind of move it along, because I promised we weren't going to go do a full 7 rounder. This will be kind of crazy, but I really like this guy. I like taking a wide receiver in the second. I know it's high for a lot of people. I don't think there's going to be a lot of great corners there. Offensive line, we've already signed a lot of the depth that we're going to have, and those are guys that we can also just pick up for depth later on in the draft. So for me, I'm looking at my guy Terrace Marshall Jr. out of LSU. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who was basically playing third to Justin Jefferson a few years back and was playing second to Jamar Chase. And this guy is incredible, though. I believe he caught 9 touchdowns or 10 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns this year and 13 touchdowns last year. Just a really good receiver, great route runner, about 6'3", 205 pounds. And I've seen him going the back of the first round all the way to the middle of the second round. And so at the 11th pick in the second for us, I got Terrace Marshall out of LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, Doc? Where do you think we go second?
Yeah, so what I did was just look through a variety of different mock drafts. I really tried to pinpoint what would make the most sense. There was definitely a diverse group of players that were being picked. And by diverse, I mean different positions, different skills that they would bring to that position. But I think after a few that I looked at and read some of the scouting reports, the guy that I would actually be really excited to bring in, who I think could be a steal in the draft, and that's how it's been kind of communicated in a lot of the mock drafts that I read, is Javon Holland, a safety out of Oregon. This was a player that was projected to be a top 20 pick, but he opted out of the 2020 season due to COVID-19. And I just think about, we have Jaquiski Tartt on a 1-year deal, right? And so it's not a guarantee that we're going to continue to move forward with him after this season. And we know that he's dealt with a lot of injury, problems, as well as Jimmy Ward has, right? And so it would not hurt to have a young player come in who could potentially step into that starting role as needed, right? Here's a little bit of the scouting report. Javon Holland of the Oregon Ducks is one of those players who was asked to do a lot within the structure of the defense, but also has the traits and skill set to execute a wide variety of assignments. That should help his draft stock. I guess there are questions because he didn't play his senior season, but I think anybody and everybody should understand why a player would opt out during COVID-19. And yeah, so the guy has a lot of skill. He ran a 4.46, which I think is more than good for his position. 6 foot, weighs 207. So he has some weight on him. And so I think if we could land a ball hawk, which it sounds like he has the ability to become, that would be great. Just imagine a potential Jamal Adams in our backfield with Nick Bosa and our D-line, Javon Kinlaw, Armstead, if he can play consistently. Just imagine that in the backfield, just waiting for those ducks that are thrown in the air when the quarterback is scrambling for his life. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, safety, again, skill position.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, the reason I went wide out, I know people are thinking, well, we took Ayuk at the end of the first last year. But, Debo gets hurt a lot. Love Debo, but he does get hurt a lot. So if he were to get hurt again, it's really back to just Ayuk. Remember, we lost Bourne, so you don't have your third or fourth best receiver. So that's kind of where my mind is as far as like there's not a lot of depth there, but I love the safety pick. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I think I saw him as well. He's an athlete. He's absolutely an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Can play center field. More athletic part. This guy is somebody who can play the pass and the run. Whereas, Tartt has gotten better with the pass, but he's still more of a run stopper. And Ward is really the guy that goes back. So that's a good call. All right, I think I got one you're gonna really like though, Doc and Ronnie, and this might be one too that the Raiders can scoop up. I'm gonna tell you right now. I know you have a running back, but I got a running back in the 3rd round. I love this guy. This guy is like Frank Gore, and I've told you guys before.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Michael Carter. He's about 5'8", 200 pounds. I just really like the way this guy runs. Again, he's about the same size as Frank. Frank was a little bit closer to 220. But the pad level, he's so quick, reads the holes extremely well, and he's fast. Look, he was playing behind Javonte Williams, okay? But keep in mind, this guy actually had more yards than Javonte. Javonte had a little over 1,100. This guy had over 1,200 yards. Now, he didn't score 19 touchdowns like Javonte did on the ground, but incredible player. And so I would take him right there in the 3rd round. I think you get a lot of value. Right now, we've got just really it's Mostert, who also gets hurt a lot. And then we got my guy, Jeff Wilson Jr. But beyond that, it's really what JaMycal Hasty. So you do need depth and you need more talent, I think. And so I think you're getting some value there in the 3rd. And then real quick, I'll do my 4th and then I'll pass it over because this will be quick. I saw this in a mock draft and I looked him up. I like this. Drew Dahlman center out of Stanford.
Mm.
I'm not big on obviously Pac-12 offensive and defensive line unless it's Buckner. But this guy, Drew Allman, is actually can play all along the line, athletic guy. I think he could run Kyle's scheme. And he's actually the son of Chris Dahlman, who used to play for the 49ers in the 90s. So, there's the bloodlines there as well. So I like that in the 4th. I think that's a good value pick, especially with all our injuries along the offensive line and especially at center.
Yeah, I think those are solid picks. I think they fit kind of the building blocks that Kyle and John have put together thus far. I meant to say this earlier, but I genuinely feel like this is probably the most important and critical draft in the history of the Kyle and John Lynch tenure. And so they need to hit on these picks. They need to get at least 3 to maybe even 4 potential starters out of this draft, in my opinion, for us to continue to be building in the right direction. I'll be pretty quick with my next few picks, so then we can hand it over to Ronnie, and that way we can finish up the San Francisco part of this segment, and then allow for Ronnie to dive deep into the Raiders and what he believes would be the best selections moving forward after that first round pick that he mentioned. So I think for me in the 3rd round, the guy who just stood out to me as still being there and a potential option is actually someone who is the son of a former cornerback who was pretty damn good in his time, which is Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. Guy is definitely on the smaller side, right? Especially since the league has started to move forward with bigger cornerbacks to try to match up with these really big athletic receivers. But there's just something about having the skill and ability to play at whatever size you're at. We see that with Jason Verrett. We see that with Emmanuel Mosley. You don't got to be 6'2". We saw that with Akilla Witherspoon. It don't matter if you got the height and the length if you don't know how to use it, right? And Asante Samuel's played in a really competitive conference there at Florida State. Let me give you some quick facts that really stood out to me. Samuel led the Seminoles with 9 pass breakups as a true freshman, despite only starting 3 out of the 12 games played. I think that in itself just tells you just the natural ability and skill that the kid has. And I'm sure he's been trained to be a cornerback since the day he came out of the womb, by his dad and whoever else, his dad put him in contact with. Last season, he didn't play the full season. He only played 8 games. It seems like he opted out for the remainder of the season. And that's probably because he was told, hey, your draft stock is probably as high as it might get at this point. Don't risk getting injured or putting bad tape out there. You've done what you've had to do. And he led the squad with 31 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups. And mind you, in only 8 games. That's pretty dang solid. So it sounds like he definitely has that ball hawk just confidence, right? Which you need at the cornerback position. Richard Sherman was saying this in a podcast earlier. You don't get interceptions as a cornerback by accident. You get interceptions, consistent interceptions by studying game film and knowing when to break, knowing what the routes are going to be and beating the receiver before they even get there, right? And I think Asante Samuel Jr., again, he just had that bloodline very similar to J.C. Horn, who, won't be available here, but is another guy who has that bloodline in him too, of just being a son of an NFL player and probably just having such a high IQ because of the experience and the probably support that he had throughout a majority of his, Pop Warner career leading up to now. The last guy that I'll put on my radar, he's actually projected to go in the 3rd round. If he can be there in the 4th round, cool. But if we don't have a chance to get Asante Samuel in the 3rd round, the guy that comes to mind is Deontay Brown, an offensive guard out of Alabama. Again, right, this is us adding depth. He is 6'3", 344 pounds. I know that's not typically what Kyle likes in his system. He likes more athletic guys. But, right, as we might be incorporating a dynamic quarterback who can actually run, it might not be the worst thing in the world to have some offensive guards that can push guys on their butts right off the line of scrimmage. And so he's another guy that could be really great. This is the stat that stood out to me. He didn't allow a single sack in Alabama in the 3 years that he started. That's pretty damn good.
Wow. I mean, 340 pounds. Try to move that guy. Or get around him.
Yeah.
Right on. That's cool, man. I love that we both thought about offensive line and we both also had the father-son connection there in that 3rd and 4th round. That's cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ronnie, it's up to you, man.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So after the 17th overall pick in the 1st round, the next pick that the Raiders have is in round 2, 48th overall. And I'm going with another defensive guy. His name is Richie Grant. I believe that, yeah, Richie Grant. He's a safety from the University of Central Florida. In his career, he's had 10 interceptions and 6 forced fumbles. So, you know, just the numbers, and according, I know Mel Kiper isn't the greatest guy to go to when it comes to mock drafts, but based on what he's like said and what I heard from him, that he's a top 5 safety, and him being in round 2 at 48 overall, I think that would be steal. You know, just the Raiders strictly need defense, and I believe safety would definitely come up clutch for the Raiders at round 2 at 48th overall. So
Nice.
the next guy that I'm looking, because I'm looking at the like all the picks that they would project to get. The third guy that I would go with, his name is Jalen Mayfield. He's an offensive tackle from Michigan, 6'5", 320 pounds. So he's a big guy. He's an athletic player with excellent footwork. He has ideal size and his movement ability. He can play tackle in the NFL, so that's pretty good. He's just very fast, you know, for his size. You know, plays with attitude, finishes with high frequency. The things that like you can kind of question are just like he's struggled handling pass rushers, but like basically he played 18 games, 15 career starts in Michigan, so you know, not a lot of experience, but you know, 6'5", 320, protect Derek Carr, you know, that'll be solid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's with round 3, 79th overall. And then in round 3, the Raiders actually have the 79th and the 80th overall pick. So back to back.
Back to back.
Yeah. So, and the last guy that I'd go with, he's a defensive end from Penn State University. His name is Shaka Toney. I believe that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the 2020 season, he averaged 5 sacks. So, you know, definitely another pass rusher could definitely help out Max Crosby. So, you know, those two together with the additional players that the Raiders signed on the defensive side, you know, I think that'll definitely help out. So 2018, 5 sacks, 2019, 6.5 sacks, and then, like I said, 2025. So
nice. How did he have any forced fumbles, Ronnie?
Looking at the numbers, I think he had 2 last year, which, you know,
Okay.
it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that'll definitely be solid. But yeah, so those are the 4 players that I think the Raiders would definitely go with, since that's all we're doing. But
yeah.
If
All right,
I'm
man.
the Raiders,
I like that.
Yeah, if I'm the Raiders having those 2 third-round picks, I'd actually try to see if there's anybody maybe in the top from 10 to 15 who might want to trade, right? Maybe the 17th and one of those third-round picks to get up. Let's say a Caleb Farley does fall down to 11 or 12, or even a J.C. Horn is there at 11 or 12. You need to take a dynamic player with your first pick. And if you can get up there and the cost is just one of those third-round picks, you do that. You do that, because if you can get an instant starter or a guy that you know is going to compete for that starting job, then you've already, you know, won the first half of your draft.
Yeah,
exactly.
I totally agree. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see you guys get either J.C. Horn or Caleb Farley for sure. And then, but I like Shaka Toney though. That's a good one. Yeah, I'd seen the name. I mean, look, you can't go wrong with Penn State guys, right? I mean, we had Navarro Bowman, just absolute beast, especially defensively. They produce some great defensive players. So
yeah, not definitely so.
There you go.
Crazy is in the mock draft. I haven't projected round 5 once.
Hey, you can find great gems in round 5. I think we would know about that with George Kittle and a bunch of other dudes.
So
right on, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much again for sharing your picks, and thank you for watching. Once again, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TSC Bay Area, and join us again next time. Thanks so much. Peace out.